Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Nephenthesys. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Let's Dev Studios and publisher East Asia Soft, Nephenthesys released in January of 2024 for the PC, the Xbox, the PlayStation 4 and 5, and the Nintendo Switch, which is the version we're looking at today. Overall, there's not a whole lot that I can say about this title. It's a relatively standard vertical scrolling shoot 'em up that doesn't do much to set itself apart. However, it does have a nice budget price point, so if you're looking to play something new, then this is one that you might want to check out if you like what you see here. Otherwise, I think for most people this will be a safe pass. With that said, we find ourselves at the main menu. So there are only a couple options to play the game. There's a really short tutorial, and then there's also play. Hitting play, we dive into our fighter select. There is no difficulty selection in this game, so there's just the one difficulty. But when you start the game, initially there are 4 fighters available: the Red Flash, the Blue Sting, the Green Dragon, and the Yellow Wasp. There are several ships that you can unlock through challenges, such as completing the game or playing through certain points in the game with unlocked ships. So that's where a lot of the fun the game has, or at least for me, is found, in the challenges of unlocking those ships. And those ships do add some additional fun and challenge to the gameplay as well. Initially, we're going to select Red Flash to show off the game. There's a story that we'll skip past. It's both presented in that initial cutscene and then some dialogue between you and a commanding officer at the start of most stages. So this is Nephenthesys. As far as presentation is concerned, it uses a widescreen vertical scrolling presentation for your gameplay. Our mechanics are relatively straightforward. We have a shot, and as you power up your main weapon, we also get a bomb. And each fighter will have a different shot type and a different bomb. So that's where a lot of the fun comes into play, is seeing what each fighter has to offer and finding which one you like best. As far as the presentation is concerned, the screen looks on the dark side here, as this one is supposed to be a cavern. So the stages that come after this are on the brighter side. And as far as the screen is also concerned, in addition to being widescreen, there's kind of this CRT filter that you can see around the edge of the screen. It's basically this curve effect. I'm not the biggest fan of those kind of effects, so I wish there was a way to turn it off in the options. Sadly, there is not. The game uses your weapon power as your life. So as we gain pick up these power-ups the enemies drop, will gain power for our shot. So initially with this one starts with like a triple shot, then it goes to a quad, and finally this like really powerful 5 burst shot forward. But if we take damage, then that will slowly go down until we're at 1 pip there in the bottom right, and then that would lead to a game over afterwards. In addition to that, if we power up all the way, we get our drone, or as the game calls it, or in this case, well, we'll refer to it as a bomb. And as each fighter has a different one, for the Red Flash, this one acts like this. It's a screen clearing bomb that deals heavy damage to the enemies in the main stage itself. It doesn't seem very effective against bosses, unfortunately. And those are the basic mechanics for Nephenthesys. As far as scoring is concerned, it's relatively straightforward as far as your scoring is concerned. Each enemy has a default point value, so there's not a whole lot of options for unique scoring and high score attempts. Things are going to be relatively straightforward based off of how you play the game. So before we get to the first boss, just a quick note of warning. There is some heavy flashing when you damage the boss, so that if you're photosensitive to that sort of thing, then it's probably best to stop the video at this point and just acknowledge that this isn't a game for you. With that said, diving back into the boss fight. The bosses are one of the elements I do like about this game, as the fights themselves, some of them are more interesting than others, but their designs are also really unique. So I do appreciate seeing some neat boss designs and some fun fights. Not necessarily this one, but the stage 2 one in particular I do quite enjoy. This is a perfect opportunity to bring up another slight issue that I have with the gameplay itself. So while I wouldn't necessarily call this one a bullet hell, as things are definitely on the lighter side, one issue that the game has is that there is no way to do focus movement. So you're zooming around the screen at a relatively fixed rate, and if you need to use finesse to get around the enemy shots, that's not something that's there. First boss defeated, and we're on to the second stage. I wanted to show off a little bit more of what the game has to offer, so now we're going to be playing the second stage with the ship that I've had the most fun with, the Pink Bubble. So the Pink Bubble is unlocked through, I believe, completing one of the other stages with a ship you get for full clearing the game. So that's what you need to do to get this fun little ship here. And the thing that goes and makes this one most entertaining is, as you can see here, the shots this ship fires are these pink bubbles which bounce around the screen. And depending on how they go and hit enemies as well, will kind of fill the screen with bubbles, making it great for crowd control. In addition to that, for our drone, our bomb in this game, if you use that, it will basically release this flood of bubbles that will fill the screen. If you've already got a lot of bubbles already floating around, it just it really is a lot of fun to see. But one problem that you might have already started to note at this point is the enemies are basically like the same ones that we were fighting in the first stage, with roughly the same enemy patterns. There's not really a whole lot of new variety that we'll encounter throughout the rest of the game. And that's really where a lot of the drawback to this particular title comes into play. So as far as the minus flavors are concerned, really the monotony of the stages after you've played just a little bit of it is the biggest problem that the game has. Things just are too much the same throughout the course of your gameplay. So after you've unlocked the ships that you're interested in trying out, or if you've played through a couple loops, that's probably all you're going to be willing to stick around and play this particular title for. And so that's generally not great. Then the other minus flavor, this one's a little bit more, let's see, for me personally, but just that CRT curve effect. It would have been great if they just would have included an option to disable that particular feature. Then on the kind of neutral end, the lack of any unique scoring systems, being a relatively vanilla scoring shoot 'em up, does go and hurt some of the replayability that the game could also have, especially where there are online leaderboards for this one. Well, on the plus flavors, so I do like any shoot 'em up that has some decent unlocks and challenges for those unlocks. And indeed, unlocking the additional ships really does add some good challenge, because some of them change up the way the power-ups work, and in this case just, well, is fun to play. The boss fights as well, I do like the boss designs, as I mentioned with the first boss, and here we're coming up on the second boss, so once again, flashing warning. This boss fight is also quite fun in that I feel it's a little bit unique for fighting, well, maybe not terribly unique, but it still is a little bit different and interesting. You've got these tentacle attacks, and the fight itself progresses in just a fun way. This is a fight that I had an enjoyable time playing. And lastly, there's some good value here at a relatively low price point. So if you are looking for a shoot 'em up, a different shoot 'em up to play, then although there are quite a few others out there, this one might not be a bad one to try. And there we have it. Nephenthesys served up for your enjoyment. Alright, that'll just about bring us to the end of this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful week yourself, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.